Hello and welcome to the West Yorkshire Football Show. Press the button, but it didn't click. Love it. I'm Stephen Brown, and joining me to discuss all things Leeds United it is, of course, Jason Booker. We're going to chat about potential signings, a little bit of World Cup stuff, and generally just have a natter about all things Leeds United. If you're watching along live, please do press the like button on the video, hype it as well, subscribe to the channel, and get your comments in. Well, Jay, just to kind of have a little roundup of World Cup stuff, we had the little Leeds United derby, didn't we, last night in the World Cup in the late kickoff. It was Sweden versus Japan. Two Leeds United stalwarts in there, Gabby Goodmanson for Sweden and Tanaka for Japan. Not a great game, not the most exciting. I think 0-0 or 1-1 in the end kind of suited both teams. Comfortable in the end. I thought Tanaka was absolutely brilliant, though. I thought it was very good game, and he's been excellent in the two games that he's come in there as well. But what did you make of the Leeds United World Cup derby?
Yeah, well, we saw Gabby kind of line up in the back three, didn't we? Which were a bit of a surprise. But he has played there before over in France, and I think his pace kind of gets him out of a lot of trouble, especially in the back three. So yeah, he kind of looked comfortable. The game were a bit of a stink fest, to be honest. I watched till half time and then went to bed. I know they scored pretty early on in the beginning of the second half, which is typical. But Japan are exciting to watch. I think Sweden have got some serious deficiencies, but then have Gyökeres and Isaac up front, who are mega stars out there. So they both went through. It's funny because this third place conundrum situation, it's left open some situations where teams can look after each other. I was making the point yesterday, and Downsy made a prediction that Australia beat Paraguay, and I said, I'm telling you now, that will be 0-0. It's 0-0.
Yeah, I've just been on with Chris, and he mentioned you'd predicted that, and I agree. I was like, a lot of these games, suddenly it's convenient that both teams just kind of play it out, and that's not good. You can't have that.
Well, it takes the competition away, doesn't it? But it made sense. They both finished on 4 points. Australia qualified in second. Paraguay had good goal difference, considering the fact that we were going to finish on 4 points anyway. I mean, there's no way a team's going to go out on 4 points. No. So if you find yourself in that situation, going into game week 3, it makes sense, doesn't it? Because if Australia lost that game, then they'd go out as well. So it just don't make sense. It don't. So it's created some issues. It's definitely created.
Yeah, they need to maybe rethink that. I think for the next World Cup, someone did comment on the previous stream as well. Apparently, the next World Cup is going to be across 3 continents.
Yeah,
Jesus, what is going on? Can you imagine the time of games and like how many teams it is?
Is it in Europe?
I don't know. Not sure. Maybe that'll be one of the continents, hopefully. So we'll get some good game times.
Yeah. I'm sure that we're expected to have some games in the UK. So, but yeah, we will see.
We'll see. Just a little comment then about Leeds United, particularly. You mentioned Gabby going to left centre back there, and I was like, "Oh, what's going on there?" But you'd mentioned he'd played there previous. I was a little bit surprised. I mentioned to Chris before, because for me, the strength of Gabby's game is up and down that left flank. That's those runs that he gets on, and you don't really do that at left centre back. And I think he's a bit defensively suspect. I mean, you can imagine, Jay, if Leeds United are lining up with 3 at the back and Gabby's your left centre back, I'd be going, no. Please don't do that. You know what I mean? So I was like, Potter, what are you up to? It's a strange one.
I think they identified, Japan are very quick, very technically good. They wanted somebody that could carry the ball out of the back line. And somebody that had then the recovery pace to deal with Maeda and a couple of the others. So I could understand it from certain merits, but yeah, in terms of looking at Gabby's biggest strengths, it's going forward, isn't it? And then driving runs down that side of the pitch. But look, it was good enough to get the result that they needed. Japan have looked very good. I think that they've talked about this Japanese team as being their generational talent. The best generation that they've ever seen. And they're capable. Well, I heard in the commentary yesterday that their plan is to win the World Cup. They're building their infrastructure behind the scenes in Japan to genuinely compete to win the World Cup. And this is a path of that. We've seen over the last couple of competitions, Japan are getting more and more competitive. They beat Brazil out in South America earlier on this year or back in the last year. They beat England. They're capable, very, very capable. And now Tanaka yesterday, I mean, like I only watched the first half, as I said, but it was the best player on the pitch. It was absolutely sensational. It was everywhere, bullying players off the ball, shielding the ball well, really determined, good pass selection, all the things that we know that is very, very good at. It was dictating the tempo of the game as well. He was often dropping in as the second or third centre back. It was top class.
Yeah, well, it's fantastic to see as well because he's had a mixed season. There's no denying it. He started off the season, lost his place. I think you and I both agreed with Farke's decision at that time. You know, we're not going to sit here and rewrite history. I know there's a bit of rewriting history now going around socials, you can imagine, because he's put on a couple of great... Yeah, shock. But, you know, look, he won his place back at the end of the season, performed terrifically well at the end of the season. It makes you wonder as well, doesn't it? You know, because he looked absolutely fantastic, but it's a different beast, isn't it, in the World Cup compared to the Premier League? I mean, the Premier League, you don't get a second to think, do you? You don't get time. Physically, you know, it's just a different beast, isn't it? You know, in a World Cup compared to a Premier League.
The reality is, and this people will scratch their heads with what I'm meaning when I say this, but outside of probably Burnley and Wolves, every other Premier League team would be very, very competitive at a World Cup. So if you were to take them 11 players from them other sides and put them into the World Cup, you would see some hella performances. You would see teams in 8th, 9th and 10th winning the World Cup. You know what I mean? Because the level of the Premier League is so high, it's so good, that week in, week out, you're playing against top opposition. Whereas when now Tanaka's playing against Sweden and he's playing against, I forget the name of the lad that played on the right side of the centre midfield for Sweden, but he plays in the second division of the Swedish league.
Yeah.
You know, like that's
exactly
a gap in terms of quality is that. So, but don't get me wrong, there's sprinkled with Isaac and Gyökeres and Gabby Goodmunson, even you could put in that. But you know, I'm just reading about Zetterstrom. He's a keeper I actually like, but he plays for Derby. You know what I mean? In the second division of England. So there's a big difference when you're then competing against the likes of the names I've just mentioned for Tanaka last night, in comparison to just even facing a run-of-the-mill midfield against, let's just say, an Everton. You know what I mean? So
true. Yeah, it's so true. It's a different level, isn't it? And Tanaka, it's an interesting one as well because what's going to happen there? You know, the thing is, I love watching Tanaka when he's in football. It's just, you know, when you just watch a player and they just watching them is like aesthetically pleasing. The way he takes the ball, the way he kind of struts around, the way he hits.
I don't know if that's me or if it's Brownie or both of us. Can somebody in the chat just let us know if that's me, him, or the stream? If you can hear me, that is. Good old technology. It don't matter how much it advances. Brownie is frozen. Yeah, I had a feeling it was Brownie.
Hello.
Other way.
Am I back? There we go.
Yes. The thing is, because we were having a few technical issues before, and I didn't know if it was me or you.
No, so it's definitely me.
Yeah.
Don't know why the speed's up, so I don't know what's going on. But yeah, so I know I was saying about Tanaka, just love watching him play, but especially if Shea Charles comes in, we're a bit overstocked in that midfield, then question marks over Tanaka is probably a player, certainly will, you know, sell him for more than what we bought him. Interesting little bit of a question mark there. I mean, what would you like to see happen with Tanaka in an ideal world, do you think, Jay?
I'd like to see him develop and become a mainstay in the team. I'd love to see that. You know, it surprised me when the commentary said yesterday that he'd only started 14 Premier League appearances. It felt like it were more than that, but it makes sense at the same time because he did have long periods out of the team, but he did deserve to be out of the team last season. There's no ifs or buts for me. Could he have maybe been given a little bit more game time when he was back on the bench? Maybe. But we're also in good form. So I can't argue with the manager's decision when it was the right decision. So if he plays himself into a big transfer this summer, and we get 20-25 million quid for a player that played 14 times last season and cost us 3 million quid. You unfortunately just have to look at it on the fair. We're gonna have to sell somebody this summer.
Yeah.
Pascal Struijk, Gabby Goodmanson's now probably in the conversation, given the interest and whatnot. And now Tanaka, at the beginning of the competition, we spoke about the opportunity for some of these players that we've got to put themselves in the shop window and boost their own value. Brendan Aronson and now Tanaka probably is the two main kind of culprits for that. Maybe that's what we're seeing. I'd be disappointed to see him go as well, because exactly like you said, I think aesthetically he's so good to watch. Yeah. He's a fun player to watch. The fans like him. There is something about him being Japanese. It just culturally is just cool. To have in the squad, you know what I mean? It attracts other fans. There's loads to like about it. If he comes back in and hits the ground running, great. If we get an offer of 25-30 million for him because he has an unbelievable World Cup, I think the club would take it, and you couldn't blame him.
No, I agree. Michael, midfield 3 of Tanaka, Ampadu and Stark. Thanks for your comment. Fabrications, give us a subscribe, mate, if you like. Just stumbled across your stream. Do you think we will get a stamina signing, or do you think Wilson is that it? No, we'll get into some transfer stuff as well.
I don't know what stamina signing means.
No, I don't. I'm not quite sure myself, but yeah, hey, there we go. Gav, I'd take 30 million for Gabby. 30 million? I mean, Jay said about 40 million in the group, and I was no.
You were thinking like 8 million, weren't you?
Ridiculous Brighton-esque, where we absolutely rinse them. But yeah, we'll wait and see. Just in terms of the other World Cup stuff, just to round up as well. Brendan was in our action last night. Brendan got his first bit of action for America. I've only seen the highlights of it. I've checked some of the comments on social media. Not always a true barometer of it. Not great reading to be honest for Brendan, but it's standard parlay, isn't it? For what goes on with Brendan, but nice to see him get some minutes there, Jay.
Yeah, I don't expect any different, because unfortunately people can't be just big enough to kind of say, yeah, I get it, yeah, see what he gives, I maybe was wrong in the past. People can't do that. Or it doesn't happen anywhere near enough. Now, I don't know the performance in which he's had. I know that America lost last night in a really close game, a back and forward game by the looks of it, one in which they didn't need anything from. I think the picture will look a little bit skewed, because I think Turkey have probably been very, very, very unfortunate not to take points out of their games. They've had 60 shots on goal in the 2 games previous to the America game and didn't score a single goal. There's some unfortune, whatever I'm trying to look for.
It's hot.
Yeah. I think sounds like a great game. Look forward to watching all highlights. Brendan is what Brendan is. He will always give 110%. He will always, I think, have a 6 or a 7 out of 10, and because of the kind of output that he gives. Could he be better in certain areas? Of course, yes. If we don't get him tied down to a new contract, you're going to have to probably look to sell him rather than letting him go on a free for between 5 and 10 million. What's the point, would be my ask to that, because I think given the fact that he'd be a squad option, you might as well keep him for another year. He's 25. I'd get him on another 4 years, have him for another year, look to develop him, juice his stock up over the next year, and then sell him next year when we've outgrown him completely. Because we're not going to be outgrown from that level of player this year. No. We're not there yet. So that's my take on Brendan.
Yeah, good stuff. Fabrications, subscribe and like. Thank you very much, mate. Really appreciate that. Gav, Brendan got slated. Time to sell, in my opinion. It's an interesting. One thing I will say, I've seen the highlights. There's a very Brendan-esque shot in there, which is what I will say, where it's kind of it comes out to him and it's just like, oh, Brendan, come on. Let's have a look at your comment here, Michael. Brighton and Bournemouth buy cheap and sell big. Leeds should learn from them. Semenyo cost them 10 million from Bristol City and sold to Man City for 60 million. Yeah, we know there's that
football, isn't it?
So, yeah, it's a landscape. And I think, just talking about Gabby Goodmanson, this link to Chelsea that's come up this week, I think the thing is, we signed him for what, 10 million. So if a 40 million offer comes in, is that enough to prize him away? I think as long as you are ready to kind of pounce, as long as you've got your ducks in a row, I don't mind, because no player, unfortunately, now is irreplaceable, and you can't kick the can down the road either. You've got to be willing to release. And the problem is, I mean, it's a real issue, is what saleable assets are they at Leeds United apart from our best players? This is a big problem. Nobody wants Jack Harrison. Nobody wants Isaac Schmidt. Nobody wants Max Ferber. Nobody wants, these players. So it's a tricky one. We've got to sell someone.
The real problem when it comes to Gabby, though, Brownie, is that his assets, his skill sets are very rare. You can't go out and just sign left backs or left wing backs anyway. Well, that's why Chelsea are looking at Gabby.
Yeah.
Because what Mark Cucurella gives them is so rare as well. It's not like there's a fountain of options for them to now go for of the level that's going to be good enough and also potentially improve as well and develop, because that's what Gabby could do. Whereas like Pascal Struijk as an example, if Pascal Struijk leaves tomorrow and we get 20-25 million from him, I'm not thinking we can't sign another centre-back that's like Pascal Struijk. I'm not doing that. And the same goes for a lot of the other key players as well. I'd say, I'd even say the right-back situation is equal to that. Jayden Bogle and James Justin, I think we could probably replace them. The left-sided, left-footed wing-back situation just seems to be pretty niche, pretty rare. How Tanaka, we spoke about him earlier. But again, if we've got 20-25 million, would you be worried that the club could replace him? I wouldn't. Whereas I would be with Gabby.
Yeah, and historically, a position that Leeds have struggled to fill as well. It felt like when we got Gabby and we saw him after the first few weeks, it was like, phew, because that was one of those positions where, as a Leeds fan, you're dead nervous about us actually being able to do it. We all had memories of Junior Firpo in the Premier League. Let's have a look at some of your comments here. Thanks for getting those in. Paul G. Brendan off the bench will be a menace in the last 20. It is a nightmare facing a player like that who just runs at you and harries you. And
so underrated.
Sorry, mate. Yeah, go on.
I was just going to say, when you're fatigued, the game's at that certain stage, to have him come on and just be pecking at your heels all game, for the rest of the game, it's a nightmare. And he's highly, highly, highly underrated and very over-criticised.
Yeah.
I said this before, but if he were a Leeds boy, we'd love him. We'd absolutely love him.
Yeah, he'd be forgiven, wouldn't he? I think with him as well, because of this physical output he has, that is so needed in the Premier League, just because there's so many physical monsters, that he's still got value, he's still got a place, even if it's only that alone. But, also there's quality there, taking the ball on the turn, getting us up the pitch, he's been really good. Yes, we know the output can improve, the final ball, etc., etc. But yeah, I think he's over maligned, I think, for Leeds. Michael, best bit of business Leeds United did was sell KP to Man City in the range of 42 to 45 million, given his performances since then. Leeds United did very well. Yeah, it's interesting. I've seen KP and Bamford were at a little watch along, weren't they, for England, commentating on it before.
People spoke about that at the time as well, as if we got ripped off. And I mean, it was a good sale. It's hard to say it because it's personal and, we love him and all the rest of it. But it was, even at the time, if you really deeped it, it was a good sale. He always missed 10, 15 games through injury. Yeah. It was a very circumstantial, system-based player was KP. There's an argument that the season after, he wouldn't have played in front of Tyler Adams when Tyler Adams were fit. And there's an argument to say that now we wouldn't play in front of Ethan Ampadu, even the version of KP that we had in this system. So, yeah.
I agree, because I remember when Marsh came in and it was only, 3-4 months or whatever of the season, but it was almost like, this ain't going to work with KP under Marsh. Mm-hmm. It's just not going to, there were always suspicions, where, look, if Marcelo stays and it's still going well, then you want KP for what he did under Bielsa in that team. But it had already changed by the time we were selling him. So, yeah, it's an interesting one.
Under Marcelo, he was the second most important player in the whole team after Patrick Bamford. Bamford set everything off and did everything in terms of movement then without the ball in attack. The second most important player within that system was KP in that 4-1-4-1 because he swept everything up and he was the distributor of the width, the diags and whatnot. So, yeah, it was key, but you have to build a team around him. And most people don't build a team around a defensive midfielder.
No, indeed. Leeds United have made a signing this week. We're just waiting for a medical to confirm it. It's going through. We did a little video. Check that out. Myself and Jay giving our reaction to Leeds United signing Harry Wilson. Just a quick word on that again. Jay, delighted to get business underway. And I think you kind of summed it up, was like when you said you're excited for the season ahead. And I really feel like it's bubbling away. It feels like we're really going places. And it feels exciting. It feels like we could be in such a strong spot. There's a lot of things we've got to sort out with the squad. A lot of, player decisions we've got to make. But I just feel like we're heading in that right direction.
Yeah, I agree. I'm excited as well because it's part of an exciting summer. Even though it's going to be busy and there's going to be a lot of chop and change, it's still exciting. And it's like when you have a big bustling summer on Football Manager or whatever, and there's players coming in and players going out. Like, it is exciting. I'm highly anticipating the churn of the squad. I think the squad will look very different next season, and it needs to. We need to cut some of the players that are not good enough from the squad. Your Ramazanis, your Nontos, your Joel Perot's, the others that make up some game time, but really we need to improve on, which then improves the 11, which then sees some of the 11 come out of the team at times, and it just raises the whole bar of the squad. That's what we really, really need. So I'm super excited. Some of the names and the links that I'm reading this morning are exciting as well. It's sounding as if Caldalo's going to sign a new 2-year deal, which I think is great. Whether he's a number one or not, I'm kind of coming to terms with either. I'm not really bothered. I personally, with that, would then like to see Perry moved on. If the plan is for Caldalo to be number one, for Lucas Perry to move on and sign a younger goalkeeper that can then develop and build into being number one next season or the season after. That should be the route, I think, that we take if Caldalo is going to be given the number one shirt for next season. It's all really exciting. I don't want to drop any names in because you might come to them, but if you don't, come the end, I'll mention them. Super exciting, mate. Can't wait for the season to start. And it's never going to feel like we're playing football because of the World Cup, so...
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is, time does get on. I mean, it'll be here in, we're a couple of months. It's here. We're up and running, and it's good to go. I think it's fascinating with the goalkeeper debate. I think I'm inclined to agree because I think if you get Darlow in, couple of years contract, and then maybe get that younger kind of player there as well. It's going to be really interesting. Would a certain Japanese goalkeeper that we've been watching at World Cup, would that be too big of a profile to then compete with Darlow? I mean, what do you make of him? I know you mentioned him before. I don't think you're fully convinced on him.
I'm not completely convinced. I've seen all three of his games. He looks all right. I've seen him before as well. I know who he was because he moved to Parma, and Parma call him like the new Gigi Buffon and all that. He's always appears a little erratic to me, but keepers can have that about them anyway. What I don't like with that move is the transfer fee or the fee that's been kind of spoke about. And it just doesn't sound to me like a move that Leeds United will make. No. 35 million quid. I don't see it. I just don't see it. I do think we sign a keeper. I do. I think there's going to be movement in the keeper situation. I don't think Lucas Perry will be happy to be number two.
No.
I don't even think he'll be happy to be like, I'm going to compete for the place kind of thing with Caldalo. I don't. Whereas you could sell a project to somebody, look, Caldalo's the number one, you come in, develop, take your opportunity, you could make that number one spot as early as possible. And you tell Cal, look, you've earned the number one spot, you're going to start as number one, but if there's a reason to bring you out, you're going to get dropped. And then you go back as being as number two. So, yeah.
Realistically with Perry, what do you think happens there? Because would you be happy taking a loss to get him off the books and out of the club, or is it a loan? Can you imagine us getting our money back?
Yeah, I can. I still can. It comes with a big reputation, does Lucas Perry. He's played in Europe, playing for Lyon. Signed for the Premier. I don't think he had anywhere near as bad of a season last season as people make out. I really don't. There's question marks with his depth perception, which me and you have spoke about loads of times. His kicking was way over criticised. Way over criticised. It was never as bad as what people were making out. I actually prefer, in terms of us going direct to Dominic Calvert-Lewin, I preferred his kicking than Darlow's. I've said this before. Darlow's are flat, whereas Perry's were much more lofted. It gave Calvert-Lewin an opportunity to actually get under the flight of the ball. But people just don't see that. They just see the ball sometimes going out for a throw, and it's like, oh, he's shit at kicking, and it's like, well, no, he's not. So I still think he would command 15 million quid. It's not a lot for a goalkeeper of his age, mate. It's really not. So, yeah, I think we'd get his money back.
Yeah, good stuff. Interesting article on Team Talk about the Julian Brandt deal as well. And this one is not going away, Jay. It feels like there's a real bit between the teeth for Leeds United to get this done, be in that conversation. The unusual thing with that for me is that Graham Smith tweeted about, because he's obviously, he gets fed a lot by the club. And, if he's done it, it's kind of stamped. And this is the thing we're trying to do. It feels as if we're really, really pushing to make that happen, despite a lot of competition, heavy competition. But it feels like maybe this actually gets done. And if, can you imagine Harry Wilson and Julian Brandt on a free? I mean, that's dreamland.
I saw a content creator say the other day that it were a risk signing because they'd never played in the Premier League. And I was like, what? Like, what are you talking about?
You're ruling a lot of players out, aren't you, if you're saying that?
Yeah. And I mean, given the pedigree, given the experience, mate, I don't think we could sign anyone else that I'd be more excited about.
No.
Unless we went and, went mad on, I forget the name, but the new guy in the chat a minute ago said, do you think we'll make a statement signing? I do think we'll make a statement signing, but it could be easily argued that statement signing could be Julian Brandt.
Yeah.
Like, that's a monster signing. Just because it's on a free, don't mean that it's crap. Players run down the contracts. That it's more lucrative for them to do that. So, it'd be such a good signing.
Yeah, absolutely. I like that latest comment. Thank you. German cars ain't made in the UK, but they bloody love our roads. Exactly. And Paul, some content creators, when talking about Brandt acting like at 30 is too old and should have a 2-year contract, is mad in modern football. 30 is nothing. Look at Brandt. But yeah, this is the thing. I mean, the value of the player now at 30 is just absolutely nothing.
Brighton have just re-signed in January Gross from Dortmund at 34.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, yeah. And what I pointed this out to Brandon when we were speaking about Brandt the other day. What's really impressive about him is how consistent his performances have been. He's not had a single injury throughout his whole career. Every season's 30, 32, 31, 32 again, 33, 10 appearances in Europe, 8 appearances in Europe, 12 appearances in Europe. And like his goals are just the same as well. 7, 8, 9, you know what I mean? Like, and he's just super consistent.
Yeah, absolutely. Other polls. Yeah, I think there has to be a recalibration there, because it was interesting watching Everton. I always go to Everton. It's just enjoyable watching fans have a panic, and they kind of turned the nose up a little bit. Harry Wilson, like, but then it's like they signed Tyler Diblin for £40 million. And that on paper, you go, oh, that's the exciting, sexy signing where it's like, guy's 20 and he could have this, and he could be this and he could be that. And it's like, well, no, but Harry Wilson's done it. 29 is absolutely nothing. Because some of them were that same argument, 29, oh my God, like, you're an OAP, and it's just, I think there has to be a real recalibration of it, because I'm looking at that and going, Everton spent 40 million on Tyler Diblin, who did the square root of nothing last season for an entire season. That's the danger.
You have to try and balance the both, don't you? Because we do need to be able to develop some players. We do need to find players that we can then find resale value on. But I would argue within the first 3 seasons of establishing yourself in the Premier League, you need to sign players for now. which is why we targeted last year, 26-year-olds that, are going to have some potential resale value, but ultimately they're ready-made to play. Physical specimens obviously is what we went for last year, and this year, by the looks of the names and the targets, we're going for ready-made, but to improve us, significantly improve. And the truth is, what does it matter if they're free? It don't matter. Like, it don't matter whether they're 29, 35. It don't matter, does it? Like, because you're getting what you're getting out of them. So,
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Michael, look at Messi, soon to be 39 in July. Ronaldo at 41. Players in general extending their careers, like newly retired Milner, Welbeck, mid-30s. Paul follows that up as well. Milner, Brighton, Henderson, Brentford. Everyone says they're the best at recruitment. Experience is essential. You bang on. This is exactly what we did last year. We brought in that age range of 26 to 29. Are you kind of not worried about bringing through the youth until we're more established? And I'm wondering, in the modern game, how demanding the Premier League, do you even have much space for being able to do that? I know you've got to try and do that, but it's like, how?
The truth is as well, right? Like, if they're not good enough, you can't play them. It's as simple as that. It's not that there's a reluctance to bring through, Harry Gray or whoever else, Chadwick. There's a few names, and the young Welsh fullback that made the bench back in the last season. They're just not good enough. The gap between 21s football and Premier League first team football is so big. I spent 3 years on this channel talking about this problem. There's so few teams actually do it, and then people say, yeah, but what about the young lad at Arsenal? He can play. Yeah, because he's an unbelievable
generational talent.
Generational talent. He's what that can't be the barometer. He's the exception. He's the one out of 1,000. Arsenal will probably have, I'm guessing, but they will probably have between 5 and 10 under 15s teams, under 16s teams that he would have been playing in. And none of the other ones would be anywhere near. They won't even play National League football. Most of them will get released from the scholarship and not play professional football. So you just can't do it. For how long now have teams invested in buying special talent from abroad and bringing them into their academy and making them homegrown?
Yeah,
we've seen it with Manchester United for years. Gerard Piqué came through at Manchester United as an example. They signed him from Barcelona at like 15, 16. That, just because they're then playing him in the first team at 17, 18-year-old doesn't mean that he's their academy talent. You know what I mean? Like, so it's such a tricky problem to navigate.
Yeah.
I spoke about my time as being in the academy. Manchester City literally hoover them all up. It leaves everybody that's at the likes of Leeds United. This is no disrespect to the kids, but they're not good enough.
No.
All of the kids in this area, in Leeds' area, that are good enough to potentially play Premier League and Championship football, really, most of them, they're at Manchester City. Some of them are Manchester United, but the majority of them are Man City.
Scary. We need to build a wall or something. It's ridiculous. I play in the highest amateur league in the UK. I'm 45. I think things have definitely changed over the years. It's not old, not exactly. It does remind me though when I played it. You played in it the same. We played like a charity game last year or the year before, and my cousin who was on my team literally tackled me to get the ball off me. I was playing so badly. I've got to admit, it is over the hill for me, unfortunately. I will never forget it. I was like, but I was so slow. I was like, yeah, it just wasn't happening, unfortunately. So yeah, fair enough. My days are over on that front. I love this as well, Paul. Is it a hangover from Football Manager? Everyone wants a team of wonder kids. Well, that's what you do on Football Manager, isn't it? It's the only way. You just raid South America, get those 18-year-olds, get them in, they develop into R9-esque players, and you dominate the Champions League with Barnet. That's what you do, isn't it? And in real life, it just does not work the same at all. Getting into some other transfer rumours and links, obviously. The Shea Charles one, we're not sure what's happening there in terms of the Leeds going to improve their bid, increase their bid. I don't think we'll let ourselves be ripped off by Southampton either. It feels like maybe 25 will be the kind of upper limits of where we'll go. But what else has been catching your eye in terms of transfer rumour links? You mentioned it earlier.
Well, the one that keeps on popping up that's exciting, really exciting, is Rooney Badage from Barcelona on loan. He has come up a couple of times now, and Barcelona apparently are making him available for loan. Premier League would be a good fit. The issue with Rooney would be we've just signed Harry Wilson, and they would both play in the same position, and I would expect that both would have been given, if they were going to sign for Leeds United, assurances that they're going to be first team every week. So how do you fit both of them in? Certainly in a 3-5-2, it would tell me, I think, that we would then be going back to the 4-2-3-1 as a standard kind of formation. So it's exciting. He's very, very talented, very skillful, really good in between the gaps. The kind of player that we do need to, again, replace Brendan Aronson, as long as the output in the other stuff is there. So, yeah, that's an exciting one. The Dorky signing came back up again. He will be on a free transfer now, I believe. But apparently there's others interested, and I think Forest are favourites as it stands. Daniil Dorky, but he would be a really, really good signing from Union Berlin, player that I like a lot. Manor Solomon.
Oh.
I've seen that come back on the radar. So apparently he was hoping that De Zerbi were going to give him a chance because he was his old manager at Shakhtar. But De Zerbi says there's no place for him in the squad. Could there be potential of a reunion there with Leeds for the right price? I wouldn't be against it. You know, we were talking the other day about an option that pushes Noah Okafor. Manor Solomon would be an option that would push Noah Okafor, and it'd be an improvement again on Willie Gnonto, Dan James, Elijah Ramazani, that catalogue of player. So, yeah, few interesting names. Few ones that probably will never happen. Obviously, we've talked about Brandt, who I think, if he's available, should be an absolute priority. And if it won't go away and we can make that one happen, do what we need to do and make it happen.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you say, no transfer fee, you can push it. It doesn't matter, does it? You can definitely sign in on fees, wages. You can be a bit more loosey-goose with as well. Manor Solomon, what an interesting one that would be. And I think absolutely we need to increase our options on that left-hand side. I would be not very worried, but I'd be concerned if you're going into a season, you think, right, so Okafor out there, and that's it. And then you're trying to like crowbar, James or whoever else into some. I think we need an out-and-out challenge. I think if Solomon, 16 appearances for Fiorentina this season, it felt very much. That season he had at Leeds in the Championship, that's got to be his best season since he was, fit at Fulham. Yeah. If he could come in and replicate that, it was probably a deal I was surprised we didn't do last season. To be
it is.
Not sure, the ins and outs of why that potentially didn't happen. I don't know, but I would absolutely be for that, because I think that role and how he fit in at Leeds, played under Farker for that season, and he's got that in his locker, as he's good enough to play at the level, isn't he? It's just a case of that fitness issue, but there's so many parts to the puzzle as well, fitting in and everything like that, which is already proven at Leeds.
He would 100% be good enough. He'd be 100% good enough to make part of this squad. When you watch back at the highlights of that season, he was so integral. People just forget. And he'd be a great option in and amongst Harry Wilson, Noah Okafor, and then another, I think. Yeah. But this is personally what I think will happen. I think Willie Gnonto will go out this summer. I think Elijah Ramazani will leave. Jack Harrison will leave, I hope, in one way or another. I think Dan James will stay.
Yeah.
Farker likes Daniel James, and he's just signed a new contract at the beginning of last season. Didn't have a great season last season. We're not going to get the money for him, I don't think, anyway. I think it'll be Harry Wilson and Dan James as the option for the right. Maybe with a loan like a Rooney Badage, who could play the 10 and any of them three positions. And then I think on the left, it'll be Noah Okafor, with another as well. I think there'll be another signing for there, whether it be a Solomon or someone else. But yeah, I don't want to see Lucas Mecha playing there next season. Even though he got better at it, I still don't want to see him there again.
No, it's still a no, isn't it? Just a random name, because I've obviously been watching him in the World Cup, and just instantly I was drawn to him and thought he looks good, and he's in that position off the left wing. Japanese player Kito Nakamura plays for Reims at the moment. Advanced in League Two, not even top league. 25 years of age, but looks to have a bit of the sauce. Looks like skillful, clever, that type of player, good technique. Would you have a go on someone like that? I mean, it probably won't cost the world to do it.
I've seen him obviously a couple of times in the World Cup. He's stood out. I mean, a few of them have stood out, landed from Japan. They're a good side. It's tricky because, as we mentioned earlier, the looking good at international level is different to looking good at league level. There's a reason that he's playing in the French second division, but it could just be a missed asset. There could be something there, like an Tanaka as an example. The Japanese do have strange routes sometimes into making it to the top because of how they come out of their leagues and their academies and all the rest of it. So potentially, I based on what the club are trying to do in terms of getting ready-made kind of good-to-go players, I would doubt that we'll see something like that. If we were going to sign somebody like that, I think it'd probably be a young talent that can then develop. I don't know how old Nakamura is, however. But yeah, maybe 25 is there. Yeah. So yeah, it'll be an interesting one. I tell you the one that kind of stands out for me, and we've been linked with him before, not for the left wing position, but up front is Promise David.
Yeah.
The big Canadian striker. I think he's looked class when he's come on in the game so far, and the goal that he scored, set up by Tyjon Buchanan the other day against they lost 2-1. There's so many games I can't bloody remember, but yeah, he scored the goal in that game. I think he'd be a real nuisance.
Yeah,
you could go direct to him, but he's technically very good as well. We've been linked with him before. I think he plays in Belgium.
Yeah,
so he'd be gettable. So yeah, he'd be one that I'd be just as a kind of a fan opinion.
Yeah, that'd be fascinating. Yeah, he's only 24 as well, so got a lot of growth there as well. Fabrications, I think Tati from West Ham would be a good option. They need the sales, and he's a good age and growth. I mean, he was one that came in. He was a success story for West Ham in the sense that he did okay in a team that ended up getting relegated. He did look decent, actually. Tati, would you go Tati, Jay?
There's another name as well that's just reminded me of that's actually been physically linked this week, which we'll discuss. But
there we go, Michael.
Certain bits I like of Tati. I think he runs around a bit too much. He's a bit headless chickeny at times.
Yeah,
his finishing is erratic because of the style of play that he kind of plays. But I understand why you would like him, and I understand why he would be a good option. Maybe it depends on the price, because you're going to be talking 30 million, even though he's only been there 6 months. They're not going to want to lose on him, are they? I think they paid 25-30 million for him. So yeah, tricky one that. But a name that came up when we kind of mentioned it, me and you, on a stream back end of last season, Zaire Fleming from Burnley. He's been actually linked this week. That'd be one that I could get him board with. Because I think he'd be happy playing a certain role within the squad. He's got development within him. I think he's got 12 goals for Burnley this season, which is a good return considering the fact that he played in a team that scored 23 points or whatever they ended up finishing second bottom. So he'd be one that I could get on board with. He's got a physical presence about him. He likes running being behind. He's quite good in front of goal. He's composed. I'd quite like that, and I don't think it'd be too much either in terms of fee.
No. Just slightly moving away from transfer potential, I just want to get your take on a couple of managerial moves that are happening in the Premier League. Ipswich, Gary O'Neill announced their feels a little bit. I mean, I don't want to speak too soon. Could go in and absolutely tear it up. We don't know, but it feels a little bit mediocre. Yeah. What about you?
It is mediocre. I think Lou summed it up perfectly in the group. He basically just went, meh, he'll be sacked and replaced by Sean Dyche or Nuno or somebody like that within X amount of months. And he's probably right. The likelihood is that they'll go down. You know, they stuck with McKenna last time as long as it was okay. Maybe they'll see a project now around Gary O'Neill coming in from Strasbourg. The one thing I will say with Gary O'Neill, I do think his reputation is probably unfairly criticised to a point. He did pretty well at Bournemouth. He kept them up at a time in which they looked like they were dead and buried. I think that was the season in which Scott Parker got drubbed 7-0 and then he came in and kept them up, which is a decent achievement. He was then replaced kind of unceremoniously by Andoni Iraola. He was kind of chucked out to the trash in many ways. And he took over at Wolves and did okay to a point at Wolves as well, but then Wolves became a bit of a basket case, and we've seen what's happened with them. So maybe he actually does have more to his locker than would maybe be seen on the surface. We'll see. But it does feel on the surface very meh.
Yeah, indeed. The other one, of course, is I don't know if it's confirmed, but Fulham going in for Abiola. Now, interesting one. Obviously, you know, he took over from Xavi Alonso in that kind of caretaker kind of ish role at Real Madrid, and obviously wants to make that a step up to being a manager. It feels to me quite risky.
I think it's really risky. Yeah, really risky. I mean, again, he got given the Real Madrid job, but he was an ex-Real Madrid player, Spanish international. You know, it's one of them that kind of you kind of jump to the front of the queue because of your name and who you are. But I still can't believe that they would put him in place if they didn't think he was capable. So he has to now go and try and make a name for himself. And between them and him and Fulham and his people in Fulham, they've decided that seems like a good match. It's going to go one or two ways in it. It's highly unlikely that it's going to be ordinary. He's going to either be super successful there or he's probably going to be sacked by Christmas.
Yeah, exactly.
Fulham could be in a lot of trouble this season. They're going to be in and around that battle for the bottom four. They've lost the best player. You know, they've got some issues within the squad. Raul Jimenez has left. I know he's not been the same Raul Jimenez, but they still now need to replace him. He was still playing most of their games last season. Muniz, who obviously we were massively interested in a year ago, scored 1 goal all last season. They've got big problems there.
Yeah, if I was a Fulham fan and we've just lost our best player who had a stellar season on a free because he doesn't want to extend his stay at my club, even though we're an established Premier League team, yeah, I'd be concerned about that. I'd be if I were a Fulham fan, I wouldn't be dismissive of that. I'd be going, what? Why? Yeah. I mean, can you imagine that happening at Leeds? If you can't convince, you'd be wanting your team to move heaven and earth, surely, to get that player to sign another contract.
Well, it's like Ethan Ampadu leaving on a free, isn't it, this summer? And you'd just be like, what? How? Yeah. Like, what? But there's been so much uncertainty at Fulham for so long. You know, Marco Silva's been talked about leaving all season.
Yeah.
Even though they finished 5 points ahead of us this season, they lost a lot of games last year as well. There were a time where they kind of flirted with falling down the table. It feels like time might be catching up with Fulham. They do this to Fulham. They come, establish themselves in the Premier League, slowly gravitate towards the Premier League again, get relegated, take a few years to re-establish themselves and then re-establish and then go through. This is a Fulham process, isn't it? So, yeah, it'll be an interesting one to see what happens with them. I do think that they've got some serious issues within the squad to sort out. Kevin came in, I remember his debut against us, looked great, did nothing all season. He was their big, he was their big statement, wasn't he?
Well, he did the one where he got sexy signing.
Yeah. Exactly.
Totally bombs, practically.
Yeah.
It seems like this. I mean, it's like Newcastle seem to be getting I think Newcastle are going about their transfer policy wrong. I think they're trying to act like big boys, like they're in that big boy club instead of acting smarter. It's like, stop going after these big name targets who want the big wages that only the elite teams can play. I mean, Be smarter about it. I don't get it. You're gonna get done. You're gonna miss out. What do you make of the Elliot Anderson £116 million move to Man City?
I mean, only Man City could have 115 charges, hanging on the head and spend 116 million. I mean, he's a great age, and 23-year-old. He's a superstar player. I mean, for the role in which he plays, he is a Rolls-Royce midfielder. I love watching him play. I'd argue he's probably the best midfielder that we have. I love Declan Rice, but he's not as... Declan can't do as much as what Elliot Anderson can do for me. He's an absolute superstar.
Yeah. Well, there were a couple of times against Ghana where he was screaming for the centre-backs to give him the ball quickly so he could bang that ball out, and the centre-backs were just dithering. So he's absolutely fabulous footballer.
Just before I just want to respond to this comment from Michael, because I think it's actually a great comment. So your comments on Fulham are similar to what folks said about Brentford last season due to Keith Andrews' first step into management and having lost Vissard and Wemo, but they've surprised many people. I think you're absolutely spot on to bring it up as a comparison. What I would say in response to that, though, is I think that we've now come to terms with the fact that Brentford are Brentford, and Brentford's model is very, very particular, very clever. I don't think it matters who the manager is there. I think they will always operate while the ownership and the backroom staff and everything above the management team is operating in the way that it does with recruitment. Fulham don't have that. Fulham are very much a case of we've given the job to Marco Silva for X amount of years. He's controlled the club, pretty similar to Marcelo Bielsa in a Leeds comparison. And now they've gone, okay, who's the best man for the job? It's not, they don't have this structure above them that drips down. Look, I could be wrong. And most often, I think you'll end up seeing what I'm saying be right rather than what Brentford do. I think Brentford is such a special situation and club in terms of the way that they operate. The fact that they're able to compete in the way that they do, recruit in the way that they do, and continue to grow. Keith Andrews is an idiot. The guy, I mean, I'm being flippant. Obviously, he's not an idiot. But we know him for what he is as a pundit. He's not special. It's not Keith Andrews that's doing this. And if you don't believe me, YouTube this exact conversation, go and have a look at their series of managers that have then gone on to struggle after leaving. Smith, who went to Villa, I forget his first name now. Uwe Rosler, Dean Smith, wasn't it? Yeah, Dean Smith, Uwe Rosler, Thomas Frank, Mark Warburton. I'm just trying to think of them all off the top of my head. There's about 6 that have gone on to do absolutely nothing. And the same will happen to Keith Andrews when eventually, Brentford finish 6th or something this season. He'll get plucked up by somebody and we'll be having the same conversation. That would be my guess.
Yeah, indeed. Right, we're going to leave it there. Thank you so much to everyone who commented. If you've not done so already, please do like the video and get subscribed to the channel. Keep a lookout on the channel for more World Cup content. And myself and Jay, we will be back next week as well. I've been Stephen Brown, with me, Jason Booker. Thank you, Jason.
Thank you, mate.
And we will see you again soon. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.